Welcome back to your Wednesday night Longhorn live stream on Texas Football. I'm your host, Amanda Atwell, joined, of course, by CJ Vogel and Jeff Howell. And we're starting off today with some very breaking news. Some news Longhorn fans have been waiting for all week. The SEC injury reports were just dropped. You can pull those up. Some things expected, some things not so expected in this, guys. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, well, it looks like Texas is going to be pretty healthy considering where things were about 2 weeks ago. You know, you look at the probables, Malik Muhammad on that, a bit of a surprise there. Xavier feels to me that's a good sign after missing the last two games. Quintravion Wisner right now is questionable, as is Kobe Black, who did not play against Sam Houston State, and Emmett Mosley, who this is the closest we've seen of Emmett Mosley making his debut as a Texas Longhorn. And look, C.J. Baxter as doubtful. That right now I don't believe was a surprise to many. He was very limited in practice earlier in this week. He was not going full speed. Of course, hamstrings lingered. This does not look like something that I would be very surprised about. But on top of that, I'd like to talk to you, Jeff, about this. Getting C.J. Baxter back to full health after a soft tissue injury got to be one of those things where Texas is going to take as much caution as possible to get him back for the long haul.
100%. Typically, the way it's worked, when Sark puts out the injury report and they list somebody's questionable, I mean, that's about as close to probable as you can get. I'd say you've got better than 50-50 that the guy's going to play. Like, I feel fairly confident we'll see those three guys that are questionable. Yeah, C.J. Baxter, man, a hamstring is just one of those deals where you can't rush a guy back. Like, we've seen it. Like, that's one of the deals why Jonah Williams has been so slow to get out of the gate, and that goes back to baseball season. Like, once you've got the hamstring injury, if you have a setback, you're all the way back to square one. Yeah, and you got to start over. So yeah, they're going to take that with extra caution. I saw some questions popped up in the chat already. Hey, does this mean you see more James Simon? I hope it means you see more James Simon. It could be a deal too. CJ, I don't know how many times you've gone back and watched the Sam Houston game, and again, it was against Sam Houston. So let me preface it by saying that. But I thought Jarrett Gibson showed some signs against Sam Houston where you can see him getting more comfortable just running the football. You see his vision open up a little bit. Christian Clark, I think we're seeing him as a threat in the passing game, which with those two guys, you do get a little more predictable. I think James Simon gives you more variety in the ground game, and I think probably is closer to, there's not much drop-off. I don't want to say drop-off. There's not much change in terms of running style or how you'd call a game going from Wisner to Simon. I think there's just a lot of similarities there. The bigger thing for me, though, I mean, we can talk about Texas running backs, but when you look at that Florida injury report, the fact that Jacoby Jackson is out, like, that is huge. Like, we probably knew Caleb Banks was going to be out. That's a really big hit to their defensive line. It's a really good player they're not going to have in a rotation. But I don't know about you, see, like, we knew, like, Aaron Gates and Dijon Johnson, like, we knew the DBs were out. But for Jacoby Jackson on the Wednesday night report to be out already, their running game is already struggling enough. Now you're putting even more pressure on Jaden Ball, knowing, hey, you really don't have any help behind you. Like, you pretty much got to go out there and shoulder the load. And trying to get your running game untracked against this Texas defense is very much easier said than done. So of all the things on the injury report, that might be Jacoby Jackson being out might be the biggest thing for either side on the injury report tonight.
Yeah, just real quick on Florida, just a couple names that we haven't mentioned. L.J. McCray, an edge rusher, Caleb Banks, a defensive lineman. Both guys have only appeared in one game, so I wouldn't necessarily mention them in terms of big, significant losses. Not like the back end of that secondary where no Dijon Johnson, very significant there as well. So, and Aaron Gates, who was mentioned out earlier this weekend, will not play in Texas. Those are two starters coming into the season that Florida will be without.
Yep.
Yeah, and all things considered with this, just seeing this report and seeing I know, Jeff, you said that seeing them on the questionable basically means 50-50, very good chance that you will see these players. Who do you think has the chance at really, really breaking out here and maybe seeing something that we haven't seen since or this season thus far? I know we haven't seen Wisner since Ohio State. It could be an opportunity for him, especially coming into a game where you might not be seeing the ball thrown quite as much. If the conditions are wet, it does look like the weather might be clearing up here. So
Yeah, I think Trey, just because you need a running back, you need guys that are going to help you maximize runs. Yeah, I went and looked back. CJ, I've been hung up on your statistic about the last Texas running back to break a run for 20-plus yards. It was Jaden Blue in the first-round playoff game last year. So I went and started looking at the numbers. And, Texas, they're kind of middle of the road in the SEC. Like, you look at the totality of the run game, like they're top 40 in the country in rushing offense. You're like, okay, so it's not terrible, but it's been far from elite. Like 24 runs this year of 10-plus yards. That's ninth in the SEC. It's not good. It's not, terrible either. But they've had 3 break for 20-plus. One of those was Arch Manning. One of those was Ryan Wingo. And one of those was Matthew Caldwell. So, you're just not getting the explosive runs from the running back position. And I think Wisner gives you the best chance to do that just because he's a proven commodity. He's been there. And plus, as weird as it is, I mean, this offensive line, this run game might be a better zone blocking run game right now than what I expected it to be. That's just kind of the way it's unfolded so far. Maybe that changes, but I just think inside and outside zone with Trey Wisner, with a healthy Trey Wisner, is probably going to be your most effective way to move the football on the ground.
Yeah. I'm excited. Again, this is and Amanda, I'm sure we'll talk about this later on, just about how the schedule shakes out for Texas, where they're at right now. But first real game that means something for Texas. And to have 5 guys close to probable, well, right, I normally include those questionable guys as probable. And just in my own brain, when I see these lists, especially for what I would consider right now a must-win for Texas, given where they are in the SEC, where they are in the national standings as well, getting as close to possible full health is huge. And one of those names up at the very top, right? Sasquatch. I'm ready to see if he's real. I'm ready to see what he looks like in pads. Hey, I'm seeing some of the folks in the chat. Maybe I'll run over to our local Austin Chipotle later tonight and see if they've got some injury report scoop for me over there. Apparently, that's where all of the injury news is breaking recently, is at Chipotle. So
yeah, I'll say this too for Texas on the injury front. The fact Cole Hudson's not on the injury report, and neither is Alex January. We've been reporting that January is probably going to be back this week. It's been looking good for Cole Hudson. So, two enthusiastic thumbs up for those 2 guys, looking like they're going to be back. CJ, with that, man, I want to get your thoughts too. I don't know if we'll see a lot of change up, but I really think for this offensive line, I'm almost convinced that the best lineup for them may be going Connor Robertson at center, Cole Hudson at left guard. Yeah. I don't know if we see that on Saturday, but I'd like to see them do it, at least a time or 2 just to see what it looks like.
Yeah, I'd like to see it too, because those guards, I mean, for whatever the reason this year, you just haven't had that mobility for the zone schemes. And, that's bread and butter for Cal Flood. Sark loves that running style, and you have running backs now that can fit that style. I don't think you necessarily had that a year ago. When you had Jaden Blue, you basically had to create the hole for him, tell him to wait a little bit, and then just burst through it. Now I think you have running backs that can read. Patience is a strength of these guys, but I wouldn't say that lateral mobility necessarily is. But if you have Connor Robertson in there, you slide Cole Hudson in there, who looks more natural to me as a guard, I think you might be onto something there, Jeff. So maybe that's a wrinkle that we see come SEC play. But right now, to your point, great sign to not see Hudson on the injury report. Texas certainly needs that experience going on the road for their second big road test of the season.
Yeah, I think that what this injury report gives me is just a little bit kind of like a breath of fresh air, a little bit less of an anxiety heading into this game. I've just a little bit more optimism of some of these players that we haven't seen all season. I'm not sure if you guys feel the same way, because heading into the swamp initially, this feels like something that just can't be lost at this point. And that may sound dramatic when your only loss is to Ohio State, but when the games that followed went the way they did, even though they were wins, this just feels like something you can't lose, especially to a team now where DJ Lagway has looked like DJ Lagway has the last couple games.
So you better be careful saying exactly that, because we've seen bad quarterbacks play their absolute hearts out against Texas in recent years. So
It always seems they
Better
figure
knock
out
on
a way
wood.
to have their best game of the season somehow when Texas is playing against them. We have a lot more to talk about today. Y'all make sure to get any of your questions into the chat. Once again, super chats will jump to the top of our list. You know, we probably have a lot of questions going into this Florida game. Sorry, guys. But first, I'm going to hear from our friends at South Point. Jeff, take it away.
Absolutely. Hey, Texas football fans, score an easy extra point this season when you get to the point at South Point Dodge. South Point Dodge has over 600 vehicles in stock, including the all-new 2025 Ram 1500. Get the real deal today and drive away in an all-new Ram that's proven to last. Plus, you get employee incentive pricing. That's right. You pay what employees pay. Now, that is a real deal. So score big today at South Point Dodge. Come see them off I-35 in South Austin or at southpointdodge.com. Get to the point at South Point Dodge.
All right, we got a crucial question from Zane here. CJ, you got your flight booked, didn't you?
Yes, and as of Tuesday, I have a place to stay in Gainesville. Well, not Gainesville. We're staying in Ocala, which I guess is about 45, 50 minutes away. So, hey, we're in Florida. That's better than where we've been in previous flights. So, see you guys there.
Yeah, as a lot of people heading out to the game this weekend. Y'all make sure you head out to the tailgate. We got a On Texas Football Surly Horns tailgate. There will be food, booze, beer. There's information on, I believe Bobby tweeted out earlier today over on the Twitter machine. But that should be a lot of fun. Wish I could be out there, but I will unfortunately be in the beautiful Vermont for a wedding because I have friends that think that's okay to get married in the fall, apparently, even though they went to UT, but I'll be watching the game from far and wishing I was there.
Well, good deal. Bama, can't wait to see you out there.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. But anyways, so looking at this Texas schedule, I think Sark brought this up in the press conference, the SEC teleconference today. It's very interesting how this schedule is laid out this year because Texas is the only team in the SEC that has played 0 SEC games. And whether that's a disadvantage or an advantage heading into I know he referenced it as it's basically like we've had a preseason, now we're heading into season. But I personally feel like you know a lot more about these other teams who have actually played SEC games. I still don't really know exactly what we're going to get on the field in the swamp when you haven't seen Texas face a competitor that's really on par with SEC talent since week 1. And just a lot has happened since then. So I don't know what you guys think about that. Maybe it's good because they get to prepare more, but I also feel like there's just a much higher ceiling now of what they need to be by the time they go into this game.
I tend to think it all evens out in the end. You know, like I just looked at Ole Miss's schedule, right? They've already played 3 conference games. They got a bye week this week. They come off the bye and play Washington State, who's not very good this year. They've got one of those throwaway games in November against the Citadel. So, like, it all evens out. But I agree with you, Amanda, from the standpoint of I'll just word it a little bit differently. It just seems like there's a lot more runway with Texas to figure out like what this team can be and where the ceiling is. You know, the flip side of that is, you know, now you've got this run of 5 straight weeks with, you know, before your next bye, and you've got Florida, you got OU. I mean, Mississippi State's a lot better than what I thought they'd be. Vanderbilt. I think we're about to find out a lot more about Vanderbilt, especially going to Tuscaloosa this weekend. But that 5-game stretch looks a little more daunting than I think maybe we thought it did. At least that I thought it did at the beginning of the year, with the exception of Kentucky, who, you know, even though playing Kentucky at home, as opposed to on the road, it's a little bit different. But yeah, it's a little tougher than I thought it would be.
Yeah, excuse my language here, but a lot of people are bitching and whining about the schedule this year and how it shakes out for Texas. And the last thing I checked was every SEC team plays 8 SEC games. Is it an advantage or a disadvantage for Texas to play 8 straight conference games while other teams are having bye weeks, essentially? Playing Sanford, playing the Citadel, right, in the middle of November? No, it's definitely not an advantage then. So it just doesn't make sense. The outcry is far louder than the reason to be upset, in my opinion. And, you know, for Texas, Jeff, to your point, not only are they on the 5 straight weeks in a row coming up here in October, they don't play a home game in the month of October. They will be on the road every single weekend. So isn't it an advantage right now that Texas has played 4 games 5 weeks into the season without any of them being an SEC team? Maybe you learn a little bit more about your team, but also you put yourself in a situation to lose guys to injuries significantly more in meaningless games than you do when you play an SEC game or big time marquee game earlier in the season. So it sounds like people are just whining to whine. This is, again, everybody has 8 conference games. If you want to complain about the strength of a schedule, I'll listen to that. If you want to complain about how schedules shape up, look, it doesn't matter. Everybody has 8 conference games. Again, it just sounds like you're complaining to complain or you're yelling at clouds.
It's just better when you can call on the burnt orange media conspiracy, CJ. That just makes for more entertaining talk on the Twitter machine. But, along with talking about the runway Texas has to kind of figure out what they are, what I hope is, and look, especially with as many new faces and new places with this offense that we've seen, there's going to be ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys. Like, it's not going to be linear improvement early in the year. Hopefully the worst of the growing pains are done. Like, hopefully UTEP was as bad as it's going to get this year for the offense. And if it does take a dip, it's not going to be that extreme. So that's my hope with playing the schedule, at least how it's worked out so far. Mm-hmm. That's what we see.
I think we've seen, just based on this year and the past year, that it is people are going to complain about Texas's schedule no matter who's on it at this point. We saw it last season and you're going to see it this season, but then you see it from certain fan bases more than others, but you don't see them complaining about other SEC schools who have very, very nice schedules set up for themselves. I haven't seen many complaints about Tennessee's schedule, which SEC wise is pretty much pretty light compared to Texas. Texas does not have what is considered the lightest SEC schedule. But I think it's interesting that you also don't see them bring it up again when teams like Mississippi State look a little bit better than you thought they would, or Florida looks like a little bit better than you thought they would. They continue to complain about, Texas got the long. I just stop talking and just play football at this point. I completely agree with you, CJ, that it's just a moot point. It's a stale argument, and I think I had a little back and forth with one of my favorite people on Twitter about that today as well.
Yeah, it's the Aggies pissing and moaning. And if you want to talk about it, well, Texas has a bad schedule. You are a part of the schedule. Are you saying you're garbage? You're a garbage team that Texas has to play? I don't understand. Again, I'm trying to apply logic to an illogical situation. So there you have it.
Yeah,
this is the kind of stuff I did not miss about Texas not playing Texas A&M, or just asinine arguments like these that ensue.
Yeah. And I mean, I signed up for a podcast that is just these arguments in circles half the time of just my friend Billy will put these things on our layout. And I'm like, I'm not talking about this again. We are not talking in circles about the schedule and how it looks different now that Mississippi State won a game. It's just look at what's next. Look at what you're going forward to next and play your game. And yes, Aggie is gonna Aggie.
I guarantee you, Amanda, A&M fans are gonna be pumping up Mississippi State like, oh yeah, they should have beaten Tennessee and they've got to win over Arizona State. Whenever Texas plays Mississippi State, you struggle with Mississippi State. They're a garbage team. They're terrible. Like, so
why do you think I named the podcast "Moving Goalposts"?
It is the
you came up with that one?
Yep. of course. I mean,
it's the most appropriate name for a podcast you do that you and Billy can be a part of. That there is like, it's a walking double standard. That fan base is. It's just a living, breathing double standard of college football. Nothing makes sense.
Yeah, and I will say he does take everything very well. He's a good sport about it, especially when it was off season and he didn't really have anything positive to come back with. But it is a case where it's like, the goalpost is always something else. You were saying this. You're saying this before we played you. Now you're saying this after we played you. Which one is it? So that was pretty much the point. We'll move on to something else here shortly. But first, we're going to hear from our friends over at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. And Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and advanced pain care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced pain care. The pain stops here.
All right. Thanks so much to our friends over at Advanced Pain Care. And we got a super chat from Rocky. Make sure if you have any super chats, questions, comments, get them in. What worries you on both sides of the ball for this game? P.S. Glad you're part of the team. AA needs some smarts on this show. I agree. Thank you so much for the nice comment. And I don't think CJ agrees with that. But I mean, for me, I honestly can't think of much that really concerns me too much defensively. I think they just need to keep playing their game and just hold on to the consistency that the defense has had. My biggest concern with defense would just be getting too excited in those penalties, just the penalties that have kind of plagued this team. I mean, into last year as well. As far as offense, for me, it would just be Arch finding his rhythm, just getting comfortable early, which is just something you never, on the road at Ohio State, you never really saw him get comfortable until the last couple drives of the game, but which by then it was a little bit too late. So
I really worry, guys, if Texas can't run the football or struggles to run the football, because then you're going to put it all on Arch, and I don't like that. Defensively, the flip side, you look at Florida. I mean, we knew they were going to get Dallas Wilson back. They haven't had all year. Again, the pieces of their offense, it doesn't make sense how they've been as bad as they've been. I do worry about if this is the game where all of a sudden maybe they can hit some explosive plays over the top, because I have confidence in the Texas secondary. They just haven't been tested like that this year. So but it's pretty far, to your point, Amanda, like it's pretty far down on the list of things where, like, if I'm power ranking the concerns for this team, I'm at like in the teens before I get to stuff on defense. But yeah, I really worry about if you can't establish the run and you're putting Arch in second and long, third and long, where they can just kind of drop back. Because CJ, this is what Florida kind of wants to do. They, obviously you want to have a pass rush, but they don't have a problem just dropping back, playing coverage, and seeing if Arch can make the right read, which I don't. If you're in second and long, third and long trying to do that, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm a little paranoid here, having, just knowing what DJ Lagway has proven before. Obviously, we've not seen it at all this year. Florida's one of the worst deep passing teams in the entire country. Lagway's only 1 of 7. Again, they don't throw the football deep, but I'm just sitting here saying at some point they've got to test Texas, right? Someone's going to have to test Texas. And I don't think it's crazy to think this might be the game where they let loose, right? You get the week off. Maybe Lagway heals up a bit. If that was something that was ailing him in that regard of the game, you get Dallas Wilson to make his debut back. And I think Billy Napier's looking at it like, hey, man, I'm sitting up there. They got an inch or two left of air coming into my casket before they put it in the dirt. I've got to find a way to fight my way out of this. Can I do it? How do I do it? Well, a year ago, things looked pretty good for Florida when they were hucking the ball down the field. Does that make a return this year or this weekend? We'll see. Now, I'm seeing people saying that the Texas pass rush won't allow it. Michael, I do agree with that. I do think Texas is going to get more creative with their blitzes, create pressures very exotically, something that they didn't show a lot of through the first 4 games. So, hey, maybe that's, something that helps bridge the gap from, the defensive line up to that secondary. But I can't help but think at home, full, fleet of wide receivers, maybe there's where you see Florida start to huck it deep a little bit more.
It's the race to get, for both these offenses, how quickly and are you able to get these defenses out of a too high shell? Or in Texas' case, we've seen Texas run some 3 safety defense. Like, can you get them out of their comfort zone? Because like CJ, we've seen it with PK. Like, if you can just stay in a too high shell and stop the run with a light box, like, dude, your opponent's screwed at that point. Like, good luck moving the ball on Texas or scoring points on Texas. I just don't know if either one of these running games is equipped to do that right now. But I kind of lean Texas because, at this point, it sounds weird to say this, and I would not have said this going into the year. I probably trust Arch in a traditional run game more than I trust DJ Lagway right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think
I
I'd
think
say
so
that.
too.
Yeah.
I think so too. And I've seen a lot of comments to CJ's point about this game being a potential trap game for Texas, which I don't know if I'm ready to call it that, because I don't think Texas is overlooking this game. I mean, a lot of people on Twitter would like to think they're looking towards Oklahoma next week, but I genuinely don't think that's the case.
No.
I think they're preparing for Florida and focused on Florida. I mean, OU might be focused on Texas, and why not? They're about to face one of the worst defenses in the country in Kent State. So
trap games don't happen when you come out of a bye to play a conference opponent. That doesn't happen. You've been focused for 2 weeks on the competition at hand, getting back onto the field. And again, Texas coming out, having intensity in practice, something that we hear almost every week about, but they made it such a point on Monday during the player availability that I can't help but believe it, So I do think trap games are real. I think going to Starkville later this year is the one that I've had circled for the beginning of the year, saying that's a much tougher game than Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's not a trap game. A team coming to your house with a number by its name is not a trap game. So Florida, they'll definitely be up for this one. And Texas going to a territory that we've never been to before, as folks that have followed Texas, knowing the history of Florida, it's not a trap game. They're going to get up for that, in my opinion.
Yeah, this is, and you can debate like in terms of blue blood status, like where Florida is in terms of like an all-time program ranking. This is why when you're down, why it's so tough sometimes for a blue blood program to dig themselves up out of the hole, because nobody's going to take you lightly. Like the fact that like this notion that anybody would be, oh, well, it's just Florida. No, like Anthony Hill said it on Monday. He's like, look, we know who they recruit. We've lost recruits to them. So like, we know the kind of athletes they have. Like, they're not going to sleep on Florida. If Texas loses this game, or it's a lot closer than anybody thinks, it's not going to be because Texas overlooked Florida and was looking ahead to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
CJ hit the nail on the head. Like, you don't come out of a bye week, go into the freaking swamp and be like, yeah, we can take the week off. It's cool. Like, you don't do that.
Yeah, I think if Texas loses this game, it's because Texas beat Texas. I think that's how we've seen Texas lose a lot of games in the past couple of years of the games they've lost. Get a lot of comments. This one in particular, Amanda, will you have the game on the wedding? Duh, of course. I think my friend fully expects me to be updating her with the score of the game while she's at the altar. So that she was my roommate at Texas. I mean, maybe before the ceremony and then right after the ceremony, we'll cut it off. But the ceremony's at 4:30, so hopefully we can have a little window of a commercial break in there or something. Once again, don't make friends that get married in the fall. We got a super chat from D Money. Can't get money. Thanks for all the work you guys do. Do you think this is the game Hill, Spence, and Moore are going to blitz more from different spots on the line of scrimmage, or just in general?
Yes, absolutely. And, Sark mentioned a little bit about the offensive playbook. He didn't say that Texas was holding back, but he said that they've laid a great foundation for what's to come eventually. I think Pete Kwiatkowski would say the very same. And, we got a little bit of a glimpse. I went back today, watched some of the All-22 on Sam Houston State, and defensively, you see a little bit of it, right? You got Trey Moore playing a traditional edge. You got Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill both playing B-gap sniffers over the guards, head up. That provides a lot of issues for opposing offensive lines. You just move these guys around. You can play chess with 5 different queens if you want when it comes to rushing the passer. So how exotic do they get? I think you absolutely see them dial it up, especially over the next few weeks. Florida, again, a must-win game. They have very comparable talent in the trenches to Texas. Oklahoma, that's going to be a game where you probably see Pete Kwiatkowski and Steve Sarkisian at their absolute max when it comes to digging into their bag. We've seen that over the last few years with Sark. We haven't seen trick plays on kick returns or all-out blitzes for punts or double reverse, double passes, right? That happens in these big rivalry games. So absolutely, for Pete Kwiatkowski, I think it starts this weekend, and then in Dallas, you really start to see no limits to that Texas defense.
This is a game, if you lose this game, even though like what I just said about Florida still very much applies, like they've got athletes, you're going to the swamp, it's a tough place to play. This is a loss the committee won't forgive. It'd be like Alabama's loss to Oklahoma last year, or Ole Miss doing what Ole Miss does once a year and losing to freaking Kentucky at home. Like, this would be one of those kind of games where the commit it'd be like, no, you want to get in the playoff, you should have taken care of you shouldn't have lost to a 1-3 Florida team on the road. True. So yeah, to CJ's point, yeah, I think this is what Florida's record doesn't change the fact that I think PK has been the goal, the objective was early in the season, implement your plan and build it up to the point where when you get ready to face DJ Lagoy and John Mateer in back-to-back weeks, that you've got blitz packages, you've got spy looks, you've got all different kinds of tools available ready to go. You can put tons of speed on the field, speed at all three levels. So yeah, I think you'll start to see them get really creative with it.
And that should excite a lot of folks because it's been a bland approach so far. Texas still top 20 nationally in sacks after what feels like a very slow start this year, when it comes to getting after the quarterback.
Yeah, I think I said this last night, and if not, I'll say it right now. Like, think about how good the Texas defense has been and the fact that we haven't seen anywhere near the best football. We know Colin Simmons can play. We haven't seen anywhere near the best football Anthony Hill can play. We haven't seen near the best football Michael Taft can play. So this defense, as good as it's been, it's still got a long way to go before it hits the ceiling. And to your point, CJ, to CJ's point, like, I'll back him up. Like, there's a lot of metrics that'll tell you this is one of, if not the best defenses in the country. There's no way why they can't continue the trend all the way through to the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's one thing that stuck with me that you mentioned yesterday was just, this defense has been very good. They're currently ranked in the top 5, which take with a grain of salt with who they've played, but we haven't really seen the players that we've expected to see making those big plays, which there's a lot to be desired and a lot to be had in this defense. We got a lot more for you coming back after we're going to hear from our friends over at Von Lane. You've got to get from one city to another. And as always, it's a toss-up. Do you deal with the airport chaos and hope your flight isn't delayed? Or do you brace yourself for hours behind the wheel, beating traffic and burning a day? Now there's a third option, and it's better in every way. You arrive at a luxury hotel terminal, no TSA lines, no long-term parking lots, just a seamless boarding experience that takes minutes, not hours. You settle into one of just 22 oversized first-class seats with 140-degree recline, leg rests, and a cabin attendant serving complimentary snacks, beverages, and on select trips, full meals. Need to relax, lean back, and enjoy the ride? Want to stay productive? There's high-speed Wi-Fi and power at every seat. Fall travel is booking fast. Reserve now for October trips to Texas versus Oklahoma in Dallas, F1 and ACL in Austin, or college football weekends in Nashville, Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston. Von Lane connects Austin, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Nashville, Atlanta, Memphis, and now Knoxville, Tennessee, the Woodlands, Texas, and Plano, Texas. Visit vonlane.com and use code OTF25 to save $20 on your first ride. Von Lane, elevated regional bus transportation. So one of the biggest things for me going to this game, which I mentioned earlier, was just Arch Manning really finding his comfortability early. I think it took him a little bit into Sam Houston State to really get into his groove and get going. It was kind of a slow start. I just don't think you can have that much levity when it comes to, or that much room to get into your game when you're playing an SEC team. I saw the Prize Picks predictions of what we think his passing, rushing, and touchdowns will be today. I believe we tweeted this out earlier. They're predicting 217 yards. Sorry, guys, my light over here is not cooperating with me. They're predicting 215 yards passing, 24.5 yards rushing, 1.5 passing touchdowns. I'm hammering the over on rushing yards there. He rushed more against Ohio State. I don't know what you guys think, but I think you're definitely going to see, especially with how the run game has been, as you mentioned, Jeff. They've been leaning on Arch a lot when it comes to the run game here.
He's your most explosive playmaker in the run game right now. So yeah, I would go over on the rushing yards. Man, I go under on the passing yards, and I don't think it matters. You know what? One thing that I'd like to see though is, I was looking at some numbers today. I was surprised, CJ, that Texas is in net field position is number 1 in the country. That's when you talk about offensive field position. If you're if you're getting the ball, like let's say from the -40 on in, those should be drives where you get points in some way, shape, or form. And my thing is Sark going to be willing to take the points? Number one. Number two, are the conditions going to be favorable for you to take the points? Because if you've got a gusty wind or it's raining, suddenly, man, every field goal PAT becomes a crapshoot, right? So if on the opportunities, the chances that you do get really good field position, just maximize that field position and come away with some points. Like you can't blow good field position.
Yeah, I agree. I think we came across those same numbers, Jeff, because Texas had the second best field position for offensive starting drives, yet they still sit, 55th in the country, I believe, in points per game. So something's not correlating there to offensive success when it should be very easy, especially against some of these cupcake teams that Texas has been playing. So that if you're looking for concern, I'm sorry that we're talking about concern on October 1st, but that's part of it, right? You got to convert those early layups, those easy layups into points. Otherwise, you're shooting yourself in the foot, and that shouldn't be what you do in SEC play, especially with a third-year quarterback. So to your point, I absolutely agree. In regards to this graphic here, I do like Arch Manning over 24.5 rushing yards. I think you're probably going to see 8 to 10 rush attempts for Arch Manning. Can he average 3 per attempt? My best bet says yes. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Arch is able to break one, given that some guys on that defensive line for Florida are a bit dinged up. So I do think Texas needs to capitalize. They need to look at it in the sense of getting to the 35 of Florida is the goal on every possession, right? Touchdown, obviously, that's great. That's icing on the cake. But if you're the 35 are in, really the 30 are in, considering some of these conditions, you're at least in a position to score points. And again, I've talked about it. If you score 21 points or more since the start of 2023, you're a damn good football team. You're 26-2 if you're Steve Sarkisian. So get to that threshold. Everything else after that, well, that's, again, icing on the cake.
Yeah, the other thing, too, and this may take a while to develop, but when we talk about hitting explosive plays and maximizing field position, like explosive plays are a really big part of that to get yourself in the scoring range. Arch's ability to recognize when there are one-on-one opportunities on the perimeter, and do you have receivers that can go win those one-on-one battles? Especially, like we talk about the injuries Florida's got in the secondary, you're down a couple of defensive backs. So, can you recognize when those one-on-ones are there, and can they be executed? That's on the wide receivers as much as it's on Arch. So again, I'm not expecting them to have that perfected in this game, but it'd be nice if, one or two of those you can recognize and hit them. And again, I'll be nitpicky, but man, on contested catches, I gotta see Ryan Wingo sell defensive pass interference more. That's gotta like you're getting mugged, dude. Like you should just more often than not, if you just make a big deal about getting the flag, they will throw the flag because he's getting mugged. We can obviously see it. You just got to do a little bit better job of selling it.
He needs to pull the male soccer player. He needs to pull the hardly just touched in the box and just flying and just dramatic. Yes. I mean, you got to do what you got to do to get a free kick. I mean, we all have done
15
it.
15 yards is 15 yards, and we talked about it just now. Any inch Texas can squeak by down the field, that's great until we see this offense truly click against a true opponent. Why'd you pick LeBron, Matthew?
Yeah, could have gone away from LeBron, but no, if the SEC officiating crews are going to make it a point to call more penalties, force the issue with it. Hey, look, if you just what is at the end of the day, what is the difference between a 15-yard completion or getting 15 yards for defensive pass interference? Nothing. It's 15 yards. Yep. Got a first set of downs. So yeah,
and hey, on top of that, Jeff, it probably lessens the aggressiveness of opposing cornerbacks, right? You don't want to just keep giving up 15 yards. So probably a little bit less likely to fight through the hands or play contact early. Penalties psychologically mean a lot for a cornerback or defensive back.
Yeah. Hey, ask you guys a question. Like, I've been thinking about this with Sark taking the points because, Texas goes for it on fourth down or has this year more than anybody in the country. I'm starting to think Sark views kicking field goals like people in baseball view bunting, and I think that kind of may change people's perception. Like some people are like, bunting sucks. Why would you give him an out? Why would you give an automatic out? Where some people are like, yeah, get the runner in scoring position and let the guys who can drive somebody in, drive him in. Like, live to fight another day. At least get something out of it. Get a productive out if you're going to get one. So I don't know. Maybe that's how Sark looks at it. I don't know. I've tried to rationalize this in my mind.
I see Sark's argument, and I think this is how he thinks in regards to going for it, in plus territory, especially in the red area. If you don't get it, it's basically an 80-yard drive that the opponent will have to go to score points, right? That makes sense. Hey, that against that defense, probably, probably not going to happen, especially not a whole lot. But point is this: if you're going to be giving opponents 80 or 75-yard drives to go to go score, you're going to be doing that anyway because you're going to be kicking a touchback after adding 3 points to your tally. So why not in specific situations against quality opponents? Just keep kicking. You go out and you add a really solid kicker out of the portal for these exact moments, right?
Yeah, it's the you get when you get into the mindset of now when you have that fourth down conversion that you don't get. Now all of a sudden it seems like you're chasing points. Now you put yourself in a position where now the next one you can't kick the field goal. Now you got to go for it. Now you got to try to get the touchdown. Whereas if you'd have just taken the points, it's the ultimate damned if you do, damned if you don't deal in coaching. I think is the take the points or go for it. But I don't know. I think with the way this offense is right now, your margin for error is much smaller because last year you were so explosive. You're like, we'll get another opportunity. We're not worried about it. This year, I don't know how many opportunities you're going to get at point blank range to score.
Here's my bunting is losing baseball take for football. Fake field goals is losing football. Daniel's comment really hit a nerve with me. Washington, I'm not sure for folks who saw this, had a fake field goal called on 4th and 14 against the best defense in the country, Ohio State, this weekend. Why? It's 4th and 14. Why are you doing that? It takes me back to, was it 2023 Texas against Houston on the road? Texas is blowing the hell out of Houston, right? They are dominant up front. Quinn looks dialed. And they have a fake field goal on to go up, was it 17 points? Would have made it 24-7 or something like that. Instead, they get stopped. Momentum completely flips, and before you know it, it's a tie game. Then you lose your quarterback, and you're in danger of losing that game. And if you're going to fake a field goal, just keep your offense on there. And look, if you're going to keep your offense on there, at least consider where you are and what type of situation you'd be in, making a 3-possession game, a 4-possession game, et cetera, so forth. So look, that's my take. If you're taking fake field goals into account, bad coach. Bad.
Dude, I thought for a second you were going to bring up Cameron Dicker's fake punt against Baylor in 21. And I have to mention that because since it's burned in my brain, everybody else has to remember that forgettable play. So
that game is so far out of my head, Jeff.
Yeah, there's some stuff, dude, that's just there's a lot of stuff that I've filed away and I hope never resurfaces. And then there's some stuff that's just so rotten that you can't. It's like when you see a really, really bad, you don't remember like, that movie wasn't that great. You remember the really terrible movies you saw, right? Yeah, I remember like just the bottom of the barrel, just god awful stuff kind of sticks with you.
Yeah, I think I filed away my entire senior football season at Texas, which was the 2015-2016 football season. I think the one game I actually remember from that season is Texas OU. That is because that is the Charlie on the shoulders game. That is the first Texas OU game I ever went to, and that is the only game I remember from that entire lovely season of football. But yeah, I have to. I mean, I'm on the same page with the kicking. I'm kind of split decision on it because there's points in the game where I feel like I would be angry if he didn't go for the points. Like you said, CJ, when the field position, if they get stopped, the other team has 80 yards to make up for. But there were games last season where they would have been won with a field goal. The SEC championship game would have been won with a field goal. Wouldn't have gone to overtime. So hindsight's always 20/20, but if you could know the future, then obviously you would make a different decision. But those are the kinds of games where it just really, really stings. And I feel like those have been relatively common in the past couple years. So that's where I'm leaning towards. I think we need to start leaning a bit more towards taking the points, especially in these situations when these games, they're going to be close. I mean, it doesn't look like you're going to have many blowouts this season.
No, and not unless this offense can really figure it out. And the best way for that offense to figure it out is for Arch Manning to play with confidence. Well, you know what hurts confidence? Turnovers. You know what basically counts as the exact same thing as throwing an interception? Failing on fourth down when you could have put points on the board. So if you want to play the psychological game and make sure that swagger that we saw Arch play with against Sam Houston State, carries on into the SEC, you got to make sure that you're handling and protecting his mental side of things as well. And that calls for being very specific with where you go for it on fourth downs, especially against very good opponents defensively, who Texas will play almost every single week moving forward.
Amanda, there are a couple of good things though about the 2015 season. Like you said, the win over OU, like the abnormally long finger from Charlie Strong. Texas beat Art Briles in his last home game as Baylor coach. There's that.
That's true.
And because of the Oklahoma State game, anytime I'm watching a game in person or on TV and somebody inevitably says, I've never seen defensive holding called on a run play. I have, and I can tell you the exact moment I saw it called for the first time. Puna 4 against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I mean, great senior year for me. But things have gotten better, so that's all that counts. Okay, we're going to get to some more of your questions, but first we're going to hear from our friends at Hayes City Store. Jeff, take it away.
Absolutely. There are very few restaurants that once you go to them, you just know right away it's a special place. At Hayes City Store, that's one of those places. It's scratch-made Texas comfort food. They've got the famous truck stop enchiladas. The chicken fried steak is award-winning. They got the homemade desserts. It's all great, all made from scratch. They've got live music 6 nights a week, 50 beer taps, ice-cold long necks, and tasty margaritas. They've got 11 TVs in the ice house. That is a perfect setup for your game day, whether it's Saturday or Sunday. They've got that brunch menu from 10 a.m. to 3 on Sunday. It's dog friendly, it's kid friendly. So get your whole crew, bring them out to Hayes City Store. For more information, check out the website hayescitystoretx.com. Hayes City Store, it's uniquely Texas.
Thank you so much, Jeff. We have some time for some more comments, so make sure to get your questions, comments, and super chats. Jump to the top of our list, and we got one from J. Ray. Shout out to Matthew, team. I think Mosley will make a key play on offense. Is this a Brevard in January type game? Thoughts on the Bama game? I would love to see Mosley make a key play on offense personally. Do we even know he exists yet is the whole thing. I mean, a key play on offense would be better than anything that we could expect.
I'll settle for a snap. How about that?
Yeah, I was going to say his key play might just be seeing the field.
Being on the field.
A few things. I will not be shouting out Matthew after disrespecting LeBron earlier. But I will say this. Yeah, I do think Cole Brevard, I think Hero Canoe, Texas might go into a bare front at some point. Look, we saw it against Ohio State when they very clearly showed that they did not want to throw the ball, especially early on. They didn't want to put the game essentially in the hands of Julian Sand early on in that game. Texas moved to a bare front, right? They had 3 down defenders and then those 2 edge rushers. Does Texas do that early on? And can Lagway throw Texas out of that? I think it's going to be really interesting. But yeah, Brevard, January in his return, and Murad Watson, 100% will be a big piece of this game. What's going to be really interesting is how deep does Texas dig into their defensive line depth? Does a Myron Charles see the field in his return home to the state of Florida? I think that'd be a nice little nod of the cap for Kenny Baker, Steve Sarkisian, and the Texas staff saying, hey, we welcome you here. We appreciate you here. Now go play in front of all your friends and family.
Yeah, I would like to think that, when you talk about guys that are going to be on the travel squad, do all those Florida guys make the travel squad? Like Jamie French, probably not going to help you if it's a tight game. I mean, he probably won't get any snaps. Do you let him travel to Gainesville, just because you feel like he's earned it or whatever? So I want to see how many of those Florida guys wind up on the travel roster.
Yeah, and then also this Vandy Bama game. I have some thoughts on this. Have y'all seen the Manziel is apparently he's showing up to this game and he is mentoring Diego Pave. Why is it confuses me because I'm like, what? Don't you have a Marcel Reed you could be mentoring? But I mean, do what you want to do, Johnny. I don't know if I want my kid quarterback being mentored by Johnny Manziel personally, but
Nashville nightlife a little bit more fun than College Station nightlife. So I understand it.
You don't like Northgate?
I don't know.
Not
when I've been to the Taj Mahals of country music down on Broadway in Tennessee. Yes,
Jason Aldean's doesn't hold Northgate doesn't hold a candle to Jason Aldean's apparently.
I was throwing chairs over balcony. Just kidding. That was more than one.
Somebody in the comments said we made them feel old, so I'm sure this is making them feel ancient right now as well.
Yeah. I like Clark Lee and I like Diego Pavia. I pulled for that Vanderbilt program, but part of me starting to think I think Vandy may be walking into a buzzsaw on Saturday. Like, you go into Athens, you get a win. Like, we'll see if Bama can keep it together, but they've had to live with it for a year from alums and former players and fans. Like, how'd you guys go to Vanderbilt and lose? You got beat by Vanderbilt. I guarantee you this is not a trap game for Bama. They've had this circled all year. They've been waiting for it. This could be CJ. You may need to get that 50 burger drawing on the pad out because this could be one of those games. I'd like to think Vandy's going to put up a better fight than that, but this one could get out of hand.
Yeah, I know we talked about trap games. This is not a trap game. It could be a letdown game, and that's a real thing. And that's where I kind of juggle with it, Jeff, because, yes, you've had 365 days of sitting there looking at your record, looking in the mirror, knowing that you at Alabama lost to Vanderbilt. But you also just had the emotional high of leaving Athens, Georgia a week ago in one of the best games of the year, and a game in which many didn't expect Alabama, considering how they started the season, to win that game. So is it a trap game? No. Is it a letdown game? Maybe.
Yeah. I mean, I would compare this. I don't think this is a trap game. I would honestly compare this to Texas playing a really big game, winning said really big game, and then going to have to play OU the next weekend. I mean, OU is never going to be a trap game. Even if OU looks like OU did last year, OU is never going to be a trap game because it's the OU game. It's Red River. So, I mean, I agree with you that this is a game that's been circled. It's a pride thing at this point.
Yeah. You guys know what I'm about to do. Jeff, we had our round table, and I threw up Texas would have 3 straight 50 burgers, right, for the non-conference. They didn't score one, right? Not a single 50 burger. So
none.
We're going to take this page. We're going to throw it up. And we're going to shoot that. And it went in. So we're breaking the mojo. We're trying something new here. The artwork, I don't know if I can replicate that again, but hey, the mojo is switched. This Texas offense will click now.
I'll settle for a 20 spot in Gainesville on Saturday. That would make me happy because I feel like 20 is going to be enough to win. By the way, have you guys looked at Alabama's schedule? Good Lord. Vanderbilt this week, then they're at Missouri, then Tennessee at home, then they're at South Carolina, then they get a bye, and then they play LSU at home. Like, good Lord, that Alabama's October schedule is
spooky.
It is, dude.
Brutal.
It is as legit as an October schedule can be.
If you hear meowing, my cat is attacking the blinds right now, and I'm not sure why. So apologies there. But I mean, I think, when people compare Texas's schedule to this, Texas doesn't play at home in October, but I'd rather have Texas's schedule than what this looks like currently.
Yeah, even though, I mean, I don't know what the Missouri's going to be ranked. I have no idea what the hell to make of Missouri at this point. Because other than Kansas, have they played anybody?
No.
Tennessee's going to be able to score. I don't know. I mean, dude, take the over in that game for sure. And then South Carolina, I mean, did we talk about Arch's struggles, DJ Lagway struggles? Anybody seen Lenore Sellers this year? Ain't been pretty.
It is funny how you looked at all these quarterbacks at the beginning of the season, all the quarterbacks that everybody was expecting to be so high, like the Sellers, the Lagways, the Mannings. They were all on a pedestal, and now here we are.
Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik.
Yep. Cade Klubnik, I think that's probably the biggest letdown we've seen. We've gotten this CJ, how was Chipotle's with Mateer? Did he film the worker getting? I mean, I was trying to avoid these comments, but there's been about 50 of them now.
Yeah. Yeah. No. As for double meat, so Steak and chicken.
Okay. In a real question on that, has your thoughts on Mateer playing next week changed at all? Have you? It's based on whether we're going to give any levity to this whole Chipotle journalism reporting situation. Has your opinion changed here?
I think he's playing.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, it is crazy. College football is so much fun because of that, right? You know, we see a message board post that he says he's playing, and everybody's like, "Wait a minute, that's not real. This can't be right." And then all of a sudden, the photo surfaces of the guy, the tortilla guy at Chipotle, saying that he's going to play. I mean, that's unbelievable. Where else do you see this type of stuff? Only in college football. So, I bet he plays. I bet he was planning to play the entire time. And we talked about his hand itself last night. Look, was it swollen? Is it not? I don't know. But he won't play this week. Oklahoma won't miss him. And he's going to do whatever he can to play because Oklahoma has no shot to beat Texas without him.
No. And again, I want Mateer on the field October 11th because when Texas takes the Golden Hat back to Austin, I don't want to hear any pissing and moaning or bitching and complaining. Well, we didn't have Mateer. No, bring your whole squad. Let Texas get the win, and then they can celebrate it for another year.
I agree with you there. And I mean, for good measure, who would win a fight? 100 John Mateers or a gorilla? I mean, is his hand broken or is it in full health? I think that's the main question here. It's a great question.
John Mateer versus Coach Ditka, who wins a fight to the death? That is the question that we all need to be asking ourselves.
All right, guys, let's finish it off. What are your predictions for this weekend? What do you score predictions? Who do you have?
I have Texas. I think it'll be a closer game. I think there might be some sort of points here for Texas. I'm thinking.
I mean, you have to have those to win, so I would hope so.
That is true. I'm thinking 26-14, maybe. How do you get to 26? I don't know. I don't like doing math, so. But they do. That's my score prediction: 26-14. Somehow, some way.
Yeah, 20. I'm kind of in the same realm. CJ, 24-13 is kind of where I'm at right now. Alan read my mind. Like that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I think I'm at a 24-17. I mean, I think this is going to be a close one, but I do think it's a situation. First team to 20 points comes away with this one. I think you can put maybe a little more points on the board now that it's not supposed to be quite as much of a swamp. Hopefully, I don't know that Florida weather. Can we trust that Florida weather? We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
If Texas gives up 20 plus to this Florida team, then that means one of two things happened. Either DJ Lagway was on it and they put it together, or Texas turned the ball over way too much and put the defense on way too many short fields.
I think
I agree with you there.
Really the only possible outcomes there. Hopefully it's not the arch turnover.
That's, I mean, the Lagway turnovers, either side of it could be a game decider. Those and the penalties, I think, are what we're going to have to look at this weekend. But if you are going to the game this weekend, and speaking of weather, there will be the On Texas Football and Surly Horns tailgate. Make sure to come out and say hello. It is the biggest Longhorn tailgate at the game this weekend in Gainesville. So make sure you come out and say hello. Plenty of beer, food, booze. What more could you need at a tailgate? Wish I could be there, but I will not. Coffee and football tomorrow morning. Make sure you tune in to Coffee and Football in the AM. And for Jeff Howe, CJ Vogel, I'm Amanda Atwell. Thank you so much for joining this Wednesday night's Longhorn live stream. We will see you next week after hopefully a Texas win. Hook 'em horns, guys.
Hook 'em.